Hello again, everyone. It's me, MadameMacabre. It's been ages since we've done another viewer submission, so today we're gonna dive right back in. I am a little nervous about today's, however, because it does sound rather urgent, given the title. I think I'm in danger. Today's submission is sent by Sam Rogers. So let's go ahead and dive on in together, shall we? I'm sorry if there's any issues with this. I'm really flustered and anxious right now. As you can tell by the title, I'm very concerned for my well-being. This is because some of the late experiences I've been having with the paranormal. I'll just start from the very first experience from a few years back and go from there. I'll try to keep this short and simple. I'm sorry if it sounds jumbled. I'm just awful at writing. Okay, I think the first experience I had with this particular spirit was somewhere near the year of 2012, possibly 2011. I was sitting in my living room with my mom watching reruns of Little House on the Prairie when she asked me to get up and shut the door. So obviously I did, but when I walked to the door to shut it, I froze. I didn't know why I stopped moving, but I was mostly looking down at my feet when I tried to grab the door handle. I ended up looking up and locked eyes with this shadowy figure behind the screen door. Or at least what I think might have been eyes. I couldn't see any expression or detail of this person. I couldn't even tell if they were a person. It felt like minutes that I was frozen in place, staring into this void. When suddenly, as soon as it happened, the man was gone. I deeply exhaled, shut the door, and realized my mom didn't even notice what had happened. And from the looks of the episode we were on, it turned out I wasn't at the door for more than a second past what was normal. It was months before I had any interactions with this particular spirit again. Like any 12-year-old, I forgot about it and picked up my next experience to obsess about. This time, I was in my room. It may have been 12 a.m. It was Friday night and I was supposed to be asleep. At this time in my life, we had just gotten rid of bed bugs, and not all of my furniture had been returned to my room. So I was asleep on a blow-up single in an empty room. The only other thing in the room with me was my dog Payaso. Naturally, Pi had always been anxious and careful, but not like he was that night. Pi had begun to whine and stare at a particular corner in my room. He sat up, and it was as if his eyes were following something that was moving around the room. Eventually, he got up, ran to my door, curled into a ball, and refused to move until I opened the door. I laid back down, being a bit freaked out by it, but I just assumed Payaso was more anxious that night than usual. I laid on my back and stared at the ceiling when suddenly, I felt like I was in the same moment I had been a few months prior. The only difference is I felt myself needing to speak up. I vaguely remember something I said. I don't like being alone and you are making me very uncomfortable. That's all I can really remember of that night. The rest is very fuzzy. I never really encountered the spirit again until last year. Last year, it was during the summer and I was home alone. My mom and dad were out on one of their rare dates and I was on the couch curled up with the dogs enjoying the peace. I felt a small pit in my chest and stomach. I felt like I was being watched. The vibe was remotely the same as the 2 times prior. Then, I saw a figure out of the corner of my eye, once again standing behind the screen door. This time, though, I could vaguely make out his appearance. I looked up a picture on Google because he did look fairly similar to this guy. I remember staring for a while before forcing myself to look away. When I looked back, he was gone. Similar things happened throughout the year before they just abruptly stopped near the beginning of freshman year. This incident I'm going to describe happened last night as of me writing this. Lately, I've been doing all-nighters because of my rapidly declining mental health and the natural stress from bedbugs coming back. I knew my cats were outside, specifically Vader, and I went to get him because I felt like giving him love. When I stepped outside, I could barely make out what looked like a cat back near our grapefruit tree. I honestly thought it was a neighborhood cat until I got somewhat closer. As soon as I was close enough to realize something was off about this cat, I froze. I felt very afraid and as if something were watching me and waiting to pounce. At that moment, I looked harder at what I was staring at, what appeared to be a cat. It was the figure of a pure white cat, standing still in a hunting position. I could see its eyes staring at me, and I knew exactly what was off. There's a porch light that would have given the cat witch's eyes. The cat's eyes, though, they looked dead and did not reflect the light. Something told me it was either a hallucination or it was the spirit of an animal. After a few moments of staring at this cat, I felt like there was something behind me, near the side of my house, glaring daggers at the back of my head. I was still frozen in place, but I slowly glanced at the side of my house. The shadows of the roof made that area appear lightless. I could not see even the smallest bit of glass. It was as if any possible light was sucked up from that area. And that's when it hit me. I felt the exact same vibe I experienced all times prior, and I instantly knew it was the same entity. And something was different. When I had encountered them before, it was just creepy. But this encounter felt dangerous. I felt as if the spirit wanted to harm me. It was the exact feeling of being a weaker animal hunted by a predator. I stared wide-eyed for a long time until my mom walked out and asked me what I was doing. I ran inside and texted my cousin, who happened to be awake. It was supposed to be 3 a.m. where she lived. She informed me that she had a really bad feeling and just woke up. Other instances in summary are basically my friends or past girlfriends telling me that they feel like something glares at them when I leave them alone in my room. Again, I'm sorry if this is hard to read. I'm practicing writing still, but I'm honestly concerned and don't know what to do. Okay, there's a lot there. First of all, thank you for coming and sharing this with me. While I can't guarantee to have all the answers, I am more than happy to give my personal advice to your situation. And as always, anyone who's watching this video, please feel free to give your advice in the comments below as well. That's what makes this sort of interaction so potent, is having all these people who can hear the situation and can all give their own advice based on their own experiences and expertise. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and give my thoughts. So I guess we can start by breaking it down by category of incidents. So you are seeing an entity that is appearing to you as a shadow figure, but over time it is getting easier to see more details, it's more defined, but also it is getting more aggressive. And then the other thing you encountered was that cat entity. So I guess let's start with the cat entity, since that will be a little bit shorter and quicker for me to break down. As far as the cat goes, I cannot tell you exactly what it was. There are far too many things, too many spirits, entities, different things in countless different cultures that it could be, so there's no way for me to possibly be able to tell you, yes, it is this thing, based off of that short description. However, I get the vibe that whatever this cat entity was, it was there to protect you. I don't think it was hunting and hissing at you and looking at you with the dead eyes. You mentioned it being in the hunting position. And maybe this is what you were trying to say and it didn't read this way through the story. But I personally believe that that cat was having that aggression and doing that threat display at the negative entity. So while you may have this negative entity around you, I think it's also safe to say that there is a positive entity that is fighting on your side. I mean, without any further details, I can't really delve further because if you know the history of the area, or the history of how many pets you've had, certain relationships you have with certain animals, there's a lot of different directions you could take it in to try and sort of further narrow it down, but with the info I have, that's the best I can give you. But it's good news, so, you've got something on your side there. Alright, and now we're gonna take a look at the big boy. So, right off the bat, my gut is telling me that this is probably a human spirit. Definitely not a friendly one, but I get human spirit vibes. Human spirits can manifest as shadow figures, and what really is sort of driving it home for me is the fact that over time you can start to see it better. My guess would be that somehow it's got a connection to that property. Again, this is just my theory, working off of very, very, very limited information, but I'm assuming if this whole time all these incidents have been happening at the same property, it's likely that this entity is attached to that property. And it also appeared to you, and I know there's like the big stereotype of like, why do ghosts always show up to the kids and never the parents? Well, there is some truth behind that stereotype trope thing. A lot of the time, spirits will show up to who they perceive as the most vulnerable in the household. And 12 is still young enough that I would imagine you're still going to be more open, more receptive than a lot of adults. Adults can be receptive too. I mean, I should be one to speak, but a lot of adults will close their minds to this kind of stuff, therefore it makes it harder for them to perceive it. Children, however, still have naturally open minds, so naturally they're going to pick up on a lot more of this stuff. It definitely seems to be aware that you're the one that can sense it, and because of that has taken an interest in you. That being said, it seems like it's taken well over a year for it to escalate to the point that it has, so because of that, while I do think it is malicious and something should be done about it, I wouldn't necessarily panic that it is going to come and try and kill you or anything. There's lots you can do to keep it from escalating further. Honestly, I've got a lot of questions about this. It's fascinating to me that it started out as a shadow figure, and the more time passed, suddenly it starts getting features and you can recognize it as a person. So that's an interesting thing and could be worth dipping into again in the future and kind of looking into that. But for the sake of today's video, I'm just gonna jump over to things I can suggest you do to protect yourself. So first, now I will never ever ever recommend to be openly disrespectful to any sort of entity. That always ends badly. But what I will recommend is being assertive, maintaining that confidence, because any negative or malicious entity, they feed off of vulnerability. So if you remain strong and unshaken, it gets a lot harder for them to mess with you. And I know that can be easier said than done, but you've already done it once before. You told it exactly how you were feeling and that you didn't appreciate it. So find that inner strength and harness it again. Along with this, I would recommend looking into all the different methods for cleansing, finding one that really resonates with you, and trying it. It never hurts to cleanse the home. Hell, I even cleanse my home when nothing creepy is going on. I just regularly make it a part of my monthly routine. I think it is nice to just gather up all the negative, blast it out of there, and keep your home standing strong. There are other things you can do that are stronger than just cleansing. You can do protection rituals and all. There's a lot of stuff you can do, but I'd say first step, just make sure you cleanse the home. I imagine that if this thing's been there for a year or more, there's probably a lot of built up negativity that you may just want to, boot on out of there. Bye-bye, Mr. Spooky. We ain't having that. Another thing, if you are religious or spiritual, you can look to your own personal faith or beliefs to find more strength, and in some cases, more things you can do to protect yourself. At the end of the day, the number one goal is to keep you safe and feeling confident in your own home. And once you get to the point where you feel that way, then it might be worth doing a little bit of research into the property. I'm curious if maybe that spirit is somehow related to a previous owner or some sort of historical event that could have happened in the home, or even the area that it's standing in. However, once again, your number one priority is staying safe. Heck, man, maybe even consider leaving an offering for that cat spirit. It never hurts to have friends on the other side. Alright, well, that just about wraps up all my thoughts for now. I hope that was somewhat helpful for you in your situation, and I hope people in the comments have even more suggestions that can help you as well. Anyway, stay safe, and thank you so much for sharing your story. That is all we have time for today, so I will see you all next time. And until then, remember, stay creepy. And safe. Please be safe. I worry about you all.